Well, it is 7:02 in the p.m., and so I will belatedly welcome you to Elba, Engaged Learning of the Bible with Application. Good evening. Glad you are here. Kudos to you for driving and walking through the mist to get here. I enjoy doing this. It's a privilege to go through the Bible. It's a privilege to teach, period. And so I'm happy to be doing it, but I'm also happy to get breaks. And I've had a break from it, and that has been great, but I'm happy to get back to it. But we had a few people that allowed me to take a break. Cole and Samantha and Pastor Jeff did a great job of going through the major prophets. Can we give it up for them, please? Thank you guys for doing that. Great job. And so that brings us to the minor prophets today. And so, as always, if you haven't already done so, you've got a QR code there that will be going away as we move to questions for investigation to get started with the minor prophets and specifically Obadiah today. Father, I thank you for this evening. I thank you for the people who have gathered, and I ask that you give me good, clear words to say, and help us to just be pleasing to you as we learn from your word. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. We have 6 questions for investigation tonight. I think 3 of them have to do with the minor prophets and 3 of them have to do with Obadiah specifically. So, questions for investigation, here we go. Why do we refer to the minor prophets as the minor prophets? Is it because their content is less important than that of the major prophets? Is it that their works are all shorter in length than that of the major prophets? Is it that they were all under 18 years old at the time of their writing, hence they were minors? Or is it that they all excavated coal for a living, hence they were minors? Okay, 93% say it's because their writings are shorter. We will find out in just a moment. Second question, as a group, the minor prophets prophesied against, was it Israel, against Judah, against surrounding nations, or all of the above? Taken all together, the minor prophets prophesied against Israel, Judah, surrounding nations, or all of the above. Going once, going twice. 88% say all of the above. Okay. Third question, how many prophets make up the minor prophets? Is it 6, 9, 12, or 15? How many are there total? Well, that's interesting. They've changed how they do that. The little statistic there. Apparently, they give how many people are kind of signed in and then how many people. So now I know how many people. So get with the program. There you got. I know there are people who haven't voted yet. Oh, now I know. Okay. They didn't used to show that. All right. So anyway, how many? It is a mixed bag. Not very many think it's 15, but people think it's 6, some people think it's 9, some people think it's 12. All right. Find out that answer right off the bat here in just a second. Let's go to this has to do with the book of Obadiah. Arrange the following. Now, this is a ranking question. You're supposed to, I did this myself just as a test. You're supposed to click and drag the first one, the second one, the third one in order of from the from Israel's closest relatives to their most distant relatives. Which one is the closest? Which one is the most distant? And the four choices are the Ammonites, the Midianites, the Jebusites, and the Edomites. Drag the one that you think is the closest in, and then drag the second closest, and then drag the third closest, etc., etc. Now, I'm not positive this is going to work right, honestly, because when I did it as a test, it told me that some answer that I didn't give it. So, but arrows, okay. Tap, okay. Well, whatever the case, we may not get an accurate assessment of the group, but you'll know what you're saying. So you'll know in the end if you were right or not, okay? But for right now, it has, at least it's purporting to say that the Edomites are the closest, Jebusites are second closest, Midianites are third closest, and Ammonites are fourth closest. I don't know. And of course, you individually said something different, but as a group, we're saying that. So we'll find out in a matter of mere moments. And next to the last question, Obadiah is the blank book in the Old Testament and deals exclusively with blank. Obadiah is the shortest book in the Old Testament and deals exclusively with the nation of Edom. Or Obadiah is the oldest book in the Old Testament and deals exclusively with the sin of idolatry. Obadiah is the most quoted book in the Old Testament and deals exclusively with the loving kindness of Yahweh. Or Obadiah is the most disputed book in the Old Testament and deals exclusively with the coming of Messiah. Okay, some people are holding out, but we're going to have to move forward. So here we go. 73% think Obadiah was the shortest book in the Old Testament and deals exclusively with the nation of Edom. Last question. In what ways does Obadiah have application in today's world? God still cares about and has a plan for his people Israel. God's justice is perfect and final and executed in his timing. Ethnic Israelites have a long-standing divine claim to the land of Palestine, or all of the above? Okay, some people are holding out, but we got to go on. 50% think it's all of the above, and then there's a mixed bag of some of the other answers, all right? Good. Well, let's get into it here. The topic is going to be the minor prophets. So basically, I'm going to go through minor prophets in general, overview in the first half tonight, and then we'll come back and talk about Obadiah specifically in the second half. All right, the minor prophets. It's referred to sometimes as the Book of the 12. In fact, the Jewish people, the tradition holds that you treat all 12 prophets together as one book. They saw it as one book. They saw it as a cohesive theology and message. 12 different prophets. You have them listed there in biblical order. Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi. 12 of them total. They're called minor because all of the minor prophets' writings are shorter than the major prophet writings. They're not less important, or they're not more important either, but they are shorter. Now, this always confused me. Maybe not always. It has confused me in the past. Because why? Book of Daniel has 12 chapters. It's considered one of the major prophets. But the book of Hosea and Zechariah in particular have 14 chapters. Okay. But if you thumb through your Bible, if you kind of count the pages, if you look in there, Daniel is longer, even though it has fewer chapters, okay? And in fact, do I have it up there? Yes, I do. Daniel has about 9,000 words, whereas Zechariah, which has more chapters, has fewer than 5,000 words, and Hosea has fewer than 4,000 words. So actually, even though Zechariah and Hosea have more chapters than Daniel, combined, Zechariah and Hosea still are shorter than Daniel. So it really is the minor prophets in terms of they're all shorter than the major prophets. And don't forget that Daniel was not considered part of the prophets in the Jewish Hebrew Bible. The book of Daniel is included in the writings with the Psalms and the Proverbs and all that stuff. So anyway, yeah, the minor prophets are all shorter than the major prophets. Who are the targets? Who is God speaking to through these prophets? Well, everybody. Judah, the southern kingdom, Israel, the northern kingdom, and also the pagan surrounding nations. So all of the above, God is coming in terms of his word and his judgment for all of those. Hosea and Amos in particular are mostly directed toward the northern kingdom of Israel. Obadiah, which we'll talk about tonight, as well as Jonah and Nahum, are directed at surrounding nations. Obadiah is directed at Edom, and Jonah and Nineveh are directed at Nineveh, which is the capital of Assyria. There are other places where Amos in particular, the opening of Amos, has a kind of a machine gun fire. Everybody gets it. But then it kind of settles into the northern kingdom of Israel, gets the main thrust of the prophecy in the book of Amos. The rest of the minor prophets are pretty much concentrated on Judah. So the majority of the minor prophets are from Judah, and the majority of the minor prophets are directing their words toward Judah, the southern kingdom. Who are the authors? Who are these minor prophets, these 12 dudes? They are 12 different dudes that come from 12, maybe not 12 walks of life, but they come from different walks of life, ranging from shepherds to priests to royalty. They come from different places. Some of them are from Judah. Some of them are from the northern kingdom of Israel. Okay? And some are unknown. We don't know where they came from. We don't really know anything about them, some of them. Okay, some of the themes of the minor prophets. What? Did I? Oh, yeah. Well, one of the themes is talking to God's people, Judah and the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah, and God is saying, hey, you messed up. You blew it. And you got into idolatry and all this other mess, and I'm tired of it, and judgment is coming. And in most cases, we're talking about prophesying the siege, captivity, and exile. We know we've been over this ground, right? But let's review. Kind of two different time periods and two different events. Which one happened first as far as bad stuff in the north or bad stuff in the south? The north, yeah. 722 BC is kind of the watershed moment. Of course, there's all leading up to that. There's a lot of stuff happening. But 722 is the defeat of Samaria in the northern kingdom of Israel and the captivity of the northern Israelites by whom? Starts with an A. Assyria. Yeah, Assyria is the nation who defeats northern Israel and takes them into captivity. 722 BC, and then 586 BC, the southern kingdom gets their day, and who defeats Jerusalem and takes them into captivity? Babylon. Okay. So we have those two main events where the kingdom of Israel, the divided kingdom of Israel, is conquered and taken away. And later they come back, right? But all of that is prophesied. Your day is coming. Your day is coming, northern kingdom. Your day is coming, southern kingdom. So God's not happy with them. So that's one of the themes. It's not the only theme, though. We have the theme of the day of the Lord, which in some cases is the same theme, because we're talking about the near fulfillment. In some cases, the near fulfillment of the day of the Lord was those events where the northern kingdom is wiped out, the southern kingdom is wiped out. But in many cases, most cases, the day of the Lord prophecies also have a far fulfillment in the, even yet far fulfillment later than we are now, the end of the age. And we did a whole message on the day of the Lord in the End Time series back at the beginning of the year, so I won't dwell on that. But that is another theme of some, not all, some of the minor prophets. Okay, another theme of the minor prophets, God's judgment on Edom and Assyria and other surrounding nations. I just said this, but in particular, Obadiah prophesies against Edom. Jonah and Nahum prophesy against Nineveh, which is the capital of Assyria. But other nations get a little bit as well, in particular the beginning of Amos. So God comes after some of the other nations as well. Two more themes here. There's an apocalyptic piece, particularly in the book of Zechariah, and we'll have to deal with that at length. We'll probably have to take more than 1 week for Zechariah because there's so much going on there. But apocalyptic revelation, not in every prophet, but particularly in Zechariah. And then finally, the return from exile. And so we have some prophets. We call them the post-exilic prophets. There are, three in particular the last three, that we put in that era of when the people are returning from Babylon to Judah. All right. Let me just make sure I didn't miss anything in my notes here. I did miss something in my notes. After all those themes, after all those minor prophets, Malachi being the last one, 400 plus years of silence until we get Jesus and we get the Gospels stories. And so it's Malachi is post-exilic. They're still doing some things wrong. Even after they come back from Babylon, they're still doing some things wrong, and God still is not happy with some things that are going on there. And he makes a final statement there in Malachi. You're still not getting it right. And then he shuts his mouth for 400 years. And we get Jesus after that. All right. That's good enough, I think, for now. We'll go to our exercise. Can I get some buddies? Is Jude back there? And I see Josh. Jude and Josh, would you come forward, please? And actually, is Jude back there? What happened to him? Come on, Josh. Jude. Poor guy, he's probably in the bathroom. Right. So Josh, we'll have you do some of these. So there's an exercise coming, but I have some handouts first. So let me do the regular handouts first. Would you distribute these? There might be enough for one for everybody. So the one that Josh is passing out, I wanted to give you guys some visuals. There's some charts. The one that Josh is passing out is lists some order, some timeline of when the prophets, not just the minor prophets, but the major prophets too, when they're prophesying, and you get an idea of kind of the relative time periods. Some of these things are not, there's not universal agreement on some of the timelines. There are some prophets where it says, this guy prophesied at such and such time, okay? But then there's others that they don't say that. And so we don't know. And because of that, there are some different timelines. This other sheet that I'll pass around this way, actually I'll go the same way, has a front and this one has a front and a back to it. The front just gives a different chart, similar to the one you just got. But you'll see it's a little bit different. It has the kings listed. And then it has down toward the bottom, you'll see the prophets come in kind of next, the name of the prophet next to the name of the king. And then on the back side of this page, it has another little graphic that shows it in a little bit different way. It lists the prophets, and it talks about when they are in terms of Assyrian dominance, so 745 to 612 BC, and then Babylonian dominance, and then Persian dominance. So, and then on the bottom of that, it has some other stuff. So let me pass these out as well. Jude, where'd you go, bud? Come help me. I don't know if I got enough for everybody. Oops, there's that. And then pass those out that way. You might go right there, right there, right there. One. There you go. Okay. Yes. Yeah, well, that's a great question. And I'll actually kind of address that when we talk about Obadiah. But here's the short version. We don't know when Obadiah was. He was one of the ones that we don't know. It doesn't say Obadiah prophesied at such and such time. So there are some, I was going to say this after, but I'll say it now. It doesn't matter. There are some who believe that Obadiah prophesied basically just after the Babylonian exile, captivity and exile, because the things that he says about Edom are written in the past tense. Edom, you did this, this, and this, and you can read that with that being right after the Babylonian captivity. Other people will put it earlier, and they have a different event back in the 900s that they say it's talking about that event, not the Babylonian captivity. And then there's yet other people, which is a pretty minority opinion, that actually believe it's predicting this is what Edom will do. So they put it before the Babylonian captivity, but talking about this is what Edom will do, which makes the past tense language a little bit weird, but anyway. So we don't know is the bottom line. All right. Did everybody get one or close enough? That's just something you can look at through the week. I just thought it would be helpful for you to kind of see the order as close as we can get it anyway. And you can compare and contrast those charts because they're not the same. And then on the bottom of the back side of that page has something completely different. And I'm trying to remember what it does say. What are the bottom two charts on the bottom of the back page? Yeah, the day of the Lord. Okay, there's a list of the day of the Lord prophecies in the minor prophets. And then there's another one. Oracles against the nations. That's right. So we talked about how in the minor prophets and in the major prophets, there are these prophecies against the surrounding nations. You did such and such wrong, and you're going to be judged for it. And so that's a list of those themes that we just discussed. All right, now we'll do the exercise. I think it'll be pretty straightforward, but you are matching the minor prophet, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, with the quote or the phrase that is associated with that. Now, these I'll do kind of one per two people. We'll go in a group here, groupie type activity. Do a couple here. Do a couple here. Do leave one here for now, and I'll come back if I got extras. I didn't give somebody one with the answers, did I? It's always a risk. Yeah, one for you guys is good. I do have a couple extra. Oh, here's the answers. Jude, you can hang out with Nana. Y'all can have that one. Welcome. Some of them you may know. A few of them you might need some internet search capabilities. Winding down. 60 seconds. All right, ready or not, here we go. How about it, huh? Hosea matches with what? D, those called not my people will be my people. Hosea 2:23, really it's 2 whole chapters worth that talk about that, but Hosea 2:23. Good. Joel matches with L. I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. Joel 2:28 is the reference, just in case you want to jot that down extra. Amos matches with I hate all your show and pretense, your burnt offerings. I don't like that verse, but I like it from the sense of a lesson learned when it comes to worship and our worship today. We don't want to be the kind of people, I'll probably harp on this when we get to Amos, but we don't want to be the kind of people that God says, I don't care anything about your worship. No? All right, that was Amos 5:21 and 22. Obadiah matches with F, the downfall of Edom. Then that's not a quote, but the entire Bible, the entire book of the Bible is about that. Jonah matches with A, God appointed a plant and it grew up to provide shade. Jonah 4 verse 6. All right, how about Micah? Yes, see, but you, Bethlehem Ephrathah, out of you shall come whom? Jesus, that's right. The Messiah is going to come out of Bethlehem. That's a messianic prophecy from Micah chapter 5 verse 2. Nahum matches with the downfall of Nineveh. Jonah does not match with the downfall of Nineveh because Nineveh escaped in the book of Jonah. But in Nahum, that was it. God drew the line and that was it. Habakkuk. The just shall live by faith. Answer B. That comes from Habakkuk 2 verse 4. Zephaniah. Yes, Zephaniah is a descendant of Hezekiah, and his whole book prominently deals with the topic of the day of the Lord. Haggai is matching with H. I will shake the heavens, the earth, the sea, and the dry land, for those who are fans of Handel's Messiah. Zechariah, you're doing great. K, rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Another one from the Messiah, Handel's Messiah. Behold, thy king cometh. And how does he come? What's the rest of that verse? On a donkey, the colt. And again, we know that Jesus fulfilled that prophecy in Palm Sunday, right? Okay, and then finally, that only leaves one more. By the way, that was Zechariah 9:9. Haggai 2:6 is where it says, I will shake the heavens. And Malachi 3:2 says, but who may abide the day of his coming, and who shall stand when he appeareth? Or appear. Okay. All right, let's go on to second look. So we're going to specifically talk about Obadiah now. I picked Obadiah first because Hosea comes first, right, in biblical order. I picked Obadiah first, number one, because it was short enough to put in half of so that I could deal with minor prophets. But also, just so you know, this is the approach I'm taking. We're going to go to the surrounding nations first. So we'll do Obadiah, and then Jonah and Nahum. And then we'll go to Amos, which opens with prophecies against the surrounding nations. Then we'll go to prophecy against northern kingdom of Israel, so the rest of Amos, and then Hosea. And then the rest of it will be directed toward Judah. So I'm kind of going in a geographical order of the targets of the prophecies. Okay. So Obadiah is the shortest book in the Old Testament. We had a question on that at the beginning of the session, and it's directed at Edom. Let's talk about, actually, before we talk about the who, when, where, and what of Obadiah, tis the season for small, individually wrapped candies. So I brought some today, and I have some questions, some little bonus questions to throw out. So Obadiah is the shortest book in the Old Testament, but it is not the shortest book in the Bible. Who can tell me what the shortest book in the Bible is? Jude is incorrect. What? Incorrect. 3 John. You already guessed. But I'll give you one anyway. All right. Rick gets some. And Jude, you don't get this one for obvious reasons. Very good. Yeah, 3 John is the shortest verse in the shortest book in the Bible. One more, Jude. Watch out, everybody. Hey, that was pretty good. Okay. 3 John is the shortest. Okay. What's the second shortest? 2 John, it was already said. All right. Now, who can tell me for more candies? How many books of the Bible only have one chapter? Okay, by show of hands, who can tell me? Okay, I have not heard the correct answer yet. Jude, be quiet. You already guessed, and I'm looking for hands. 3 and 4 is wrong, so somebody else guess it. No, that's also wrong. Yeah, who said 5? Yeah. Oh. Sorry. Yes, there are 5 books of the Bible that have one chapter. What are they? 3 John and 2 John and Obadiah. That's 3 of them. Jude. One more. It's from the New Testament. Philemon is correct. There's five books of the Bible that only have one chapter. There they are. Those are the 5. Okay, more candy. More candy. If you can tell me. I think those are different sizes. Is that possible? This is the left one, and this is the right one. That's funny. Okay, the next question for candy is this. Hands. If you can tell me the longest book in the Bible. You would think so. It is by number of chapters, but not by number of words. Close, but no cigar. Close, but no cigar. Psalms has the most chapters, but it's not the longest. The books of the Bible that are not the longest are Isaiah, Psalms, Ezekiel, Jeremiah. You don't get peanuts either. All right. Yes, Jeremiah. And I'll do one more. If you can tell me the second longest, and it hasn't been said yet. Who said that? Very good. Good luck. All right. All right, so here they are for your statistical pleasure. The 6 longest books of the Bible in terms of numbers of words. Jeremiah is the longest, Genesis second, then Psalms. Then actually Ezekiel, even though it has fewer chapters than Isaiah. Ezekiel and then Exodus and then Isaiah. Those are the 6 longest books of the Bible. Kind of cool. I have the rest of the list here. I don't have it on the screen. Is this interesting? This is very interesting to me. I don't know. I'm nerdy about this, but I don't know, maybe so. 7th is Numbers, and then 8th is Deuteronomy, 9th is 2nd Chronicles, 10th is 1st Samuel, and then 1st Kings, and then 12th longest is Luke, then Leviticus, then 2nd Kings, then Acts and Matthew. So it gives you an idea. Matthew has 18,000 words, just to give you an idea of how it stacks up against it. All right, and then the shortest books of the Bible. 3rd John is the shortest with only 219 words. 2nd John, then Philemon, then Obadiah, then Jude. And Jude is actually the longest of the single chapter books. And then Titus. Okay? Yeah, that's how many words they have. All right? Anyway, just a little thing, just a little bonus for you tonight. All right? Cool. Let's go on. So Edom, Obadiah, the book of Obadiah is dealing with, it's a prophecy against Edom. God is saying to Edom, you're terrible. I don't like you. You're going to get judged. Okay? So let's get to some background on Edom. Let's remind ourselves a little bit about Edom. First of all, the Edomites are the descendants of Esau. Esau is the brother of Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel. So the Edomites are literally the closest relatives there are to the Israelites. Okay? They are the brother of Israel. Okay? And yet, they were one of the arch enemies, throughout the Old Testament. By the way, to get to the answer to the question, which doesn't really have anything to do with what we were talking about, but I asked the question of ranking so Edomites are the closest relative. The other ones were Midianites and Ammonites and Jebusites. What would be the next closest? It would be the Midianites. The Midianites were from Abraham's other wife, Keturah. And so that would be the next closest relative to the Israelites. The Ammonites are from whom? Yes, remember Lot's two daughters. The Moabites and the Ammonites come from Lot. So that would be the next closest relative. In other words, more distant. And then the Jebusites are very distantly related. Jebusites come from, anybody remember? They're in the land of Canaan. They are Canaanites. They come from Canaan. The son of Ham, the grandson of Noah, all the way back there. So the Jebusites are descended from Canaan. Bad characters. Okay. Anyway, there's the answer to that. Back to Edom and background on Edom so that we can understand better when we read Obadiah. They dwelled in cliffs and mountains. They would dig into the mountains, and so they were high up, and they were well fortified. They took pride in basically nobody can conquer us because how are you going to get to us? That kind of a thing. This is so small. Oh yeah. So kind of going through the history of the relationship between the Edomites and the Israelites, they were the ones who refused Israel passage when they went in the wilderness journey. You remember that story, Numbers chapter 20? They refused passage to Israel when they should have just let them pass through. They weren't going to mess with them, but they would not allow that. They had, according to Obadiah 1:11, apathy about the invasion of Judah by the Babylonians or by whoever Obadiah is referring to. In Obadiah verse 12, they rejoiced over Judah's destruction. This is paralleled in Lamentations 4:21 and 22. Edomites rejoiced over Judah's destruction. Obadiah 1:13, they looted Jerusalem after the siege and captivity. Obadiah 1:14, they captured the survivors and they handed them over to their enemies. Amos chapter 1, they bought the Israelites as slaves. Amos chapter 1 again, they chased down the Israelites with swords. And Ezekiel 36:5, they took over, in other words, settled in the land of Judah after the Babylonian captivity. So kind of a little trek there of the history of the relationship between the Edomites and the Israelites. Not good. So even though they were their closest relatives, one commentator calls Edom, quote, the greatest enemy of God's people, Israel. It's a pretty strong statement. So you can see why God is not happy. And he tells them so in the book of Obadiah. So let's actually read the book of Obadiah. What a privilege and how seldom it is that we get to actually read an entire book of the Bible in one sitting, right? And publicly, okay? And so one chapter is all it is, so we're going to read all the way through it tonight. I'm going to read the New Living Translation. You just follow along in whatever translation you would like. But it says this, Obadiah, the only chapter, beginning in verse 1. This is the vision that the sovereign Lord revealed to Obadiah concerning the land of Edom. We have heard a message from the Lord that an ambassador was sent to the great nations to say, get ready, everyone. Let's assemble our armies and attack Edom. The Lord says to Edom, I will cut you down to size among the nations. You will be greatly despised. You have been deceived by your own pride because you live in a rock fortress and make your home high in the mountains. Who can ever reach us way up here? You ask boastfully. But even as you soar as high as eagles and build your nest among the stars, I will bring you crashing down, says the Lord. Here are some pictures of the area. This is Petra is the city that is in the place where the Edomites once lived. Now, I think that some of this, I guess you would call it architecture, is Roman, so later, but you get the picture at least of the idea of kind of digging in and building into these cliffs here in Petra. This is in southern Jordan, south of the Dead Sea. That's the area that we're talking about. And here's some mountains that are in this area. Mount Seir, S-E-I-R, is the mountain that's always associated with Edom. When you hear the Bible refer, we've seen this before, where the Bible will say, it'll use a thing to represent a people. So it'll say Mount Seir, and you're supposed to understand that represents the Edomites, right? But here are some mountains right there in that area. You can see the terrain. You can see the aridness of it. And another mountain here in the same area. Okay. Going on, verse 5. If thieves came at night and robbed you, what a disaster awaits you. They would not take everything. Those who harvest grapes always leave a few for the poor. But your enemies will wipe you out completely. Every nook and cranny of Edom will be searched and looted. Every treasure will be found and taken. All your allies will turn against you. They will help to chase you from your land. They will promise you peace while plotting to deceive and destroy you. Your trusted friends will set traps for you, and you won't even know about it. At that time, not a single wise person will be left in the whole land of Edom, says the Lord. Just a point here about verse 7, everybody turning against you. I think there's a principle of sowing and reaping there. I mean, God is talking about what he's going to do to them. But really, if you look at it, it's really what other people are going to do to them, the surrounding nations. And so the surrounding nations are going to turn their back and turn on Edom. And I think that, there's a principle of sowing and reaping there that they didn't treat their neighbors well, and they're going to be coming for them. So it's both. It's what God is doing, but it's what people are doing with God's direction and permission. Keep going into verse 8. For on the mountains of Edom I will destroy everyone who has understanding. The mightiest warriors of Teman will be terrified, and everyone on the mountains of Edom will be cut down in the slaughter. Verse 10, because of the violence you did to your close relatives in Israel, you will be filled with shame and destroyed forever. When they were invaded, you stood aloof, refusing to help them. Foreign invaders carried off their wealth and cast lots to divide up Jerusalem, but you acted like one of Israel's enemies. You should not have gloated when they exiled your relatives to distant lands. You should not have rejoiced when the people of Judah suffered such misfortune. You should not have spoken arrogantly in that terrible time of trouble. You should not have plundered the land of Israel when they were suffering such calamity. You should not have gloated over their destruction when they were suffering. Sorry, I just said that. You should not have seized their wealth when they were suffering such calamity. You should not have stood at the crossroads killing those who tried to escape. You should not have captured the survivors and handed them over in their terrible time of trouble. The day is near when I, the Lord, will judge all godless nations. So this is the day of the Lord prophecy. And it really is referring to the end times because it's the day when he's going to judge all nations. That day hasn't happened yet. As you have done to Israel, so it will be done to you. All your evil deeds will fall back on your own heads. Just as you swallowed up my people on my holy mountain, so you and the surrounding nations will swallow the punishment I pour out on you. Yes, all you nations will drink and stagger and disappear from history. But Jerusalem will become a refuge for those who escape. It will be a holy place, and the people of Israel will come back to reclaim their inheritance. The people of Israel would be a raging fire, and Edom a field of dry stubble. The descendants of Joseph will be a flame roaring across the field, devouring everything. There will be no survivors in Edom. We're going to come back to that. There will be no survivors in Edom. I, the Lord, have spoken. Then my people living in the Negev will occupy the mountains of Edom. Those living in the foothills of Judah will possess the Philistine plains and take over the fields of Ephraim and Samaria. And the people of Benjamin will occupy the land of Gilead. The exiles of Israel will return to their land and occupy the Phoenician coast as far north as Zarephath. The captives from Jerusalem exiled in the north will return home and resettle the towns of the Negev. Those who have been rescued will go up to Mount Zion in Jerusalem to rule over the mountains of Edom, and the Lord himself will be king. Amen. So let's go back to this little statement here that says there will be no survivors in Edom. That has actually already happened. So this prophecy has been fulfilled. There are no survivors in the land of Edom. Edom was wiped out in stages from the Babylonians in the 500s BC all the way to the Romans in the 2nd century AD. Over several little periods during that time, there were stages of Edom being wiped out to where in the end, there's nobody you can point to today and say that's an Edomite because they're all gone. And the word of the Lord has come true. All right, well, that brings us to the end of Obadiah and our overview of minor prophets. So let's go to our personal practical application. Let's get back in our groups. And I want you to read in the groups. Maybe you can have one person read one and another person read another, but read a little bit from Jeremiah chapter 49, verses 7 to 22. And then also Ezekiel 35. Both of these are prophecies against Edom. So they're what we would refer to as a parallel passage. And then I want you to answer this question. So I'm making you do the kind of the hard work tonight. Normally, I try to come in and say, here's the application for today. I want you to come up with an application for today, okay? Think about this. Okay, we just read this prophecy against Edom. It's been fulfilled. It's thousands of years ago. What does that got to do with me, right? What does that have to do? Like, we know that the Bible still has meaning and application today, but sometimes it's hard to figure out what it is. I want you to dig in a little bit and see if you can figure out some applications for today. Try it. All right. Did you come up with some good application? Okay, here's what I came up with on application for today, and it matters because it's one of the questions. All right. But you saw one of the questions at the beginning. In what ways does Obadiah have application in today's world? The first thing I noted was God still cares about and has a plan for his people Israel. The second one was God's justice is perfect and final and executed in his timing. That is an application for today, for sure, right? We want justice right now for everybody except us, right? Okay. And then the third one, which is definitely for today, even more so than it was a couple years ago. Ethnic Israelites have a long-standing divine claim to the land of Palestine. Look at verse 20 one more time. The exiles of Israel will return to their land. Their land. And we got this nonsense going on today that people want to do a lot of stuff. It's crazy. And I talked about it quite a bit, again, during the End Time series. But I think it's something that we kind of need to keep bringing up is, and again, we're not saying that everything the nation of Israel does is always right. We're not saying that. But we support Israel, which again, there's ethnic Israel, there's national Israel, and there's spiritual Israel. You and I are part of spiritual Israel. We are the Israel of God. But we're expecting a end times revival of ethnic Israelites, according to Romans 11. And so we support Israel, but really we're supporting God's plan, part of which is he carved out a piece of land and he said, that's mine. And he put people in there, particularly Abraham and his descendants, and said, you own that. You're going to steward it for me. So God is concerned about that land. It's his. All right, let's go on. Let's go to our celebration of knowledge. Here we go. Everybody should get 100% now. Why do we refer to the minor prophets as minor prophets? Is it because they're less important? Is it because their stuff is shorter? Is it because they were under 18? Or was it because they mined for coal? Come on, you're fading on me. All right, I'm going to go on. 100% say they're all shorter, and that's correct. They were shorter. All right. Second question. As a group, the minor prophets prophesied against Israel, Judah, surrounding nations, or all of the above. You're tired now. There's a point at which the point of no return. There's no voting after 8 p.m. All right, whatever. All of the above, 91%, and that is the correct answer, all of the above. Some prophesied against Israel, some prophesied against Judah, some prophesied against surrounding nations. How many prophets make up the minor prophets? Not only important to know how many, but it's actually called the Book of the 12. They actually went together in a book. Okay, keep going. Ranking now, or arranging in order the closest relatives. We talked through this. Ammonites, Midianites, Jebusites, Edomites. Who's the closest relative down to the most distant relative? I know this one takes a little bit more time. All right, so, and again, I'm not sure if this is it looks like they did it right. It looks like it did it right. So, yeah, what's on the board is correct. So, Edomites are the closest, descendants of Esau. Midianites, descendants of Abraham's other wife. Ammonites, descendants of Lot. And Jebusites. You got to go all the way back to Noah's great-grandson to get back to that level. All right? All right, last couple of questions. Obadiah is the shortest book in the Old Testament and deals exclusively with the nation of Edom. Obadiah is the oldest book of the Bible, or old book of the Old Testament, and deals exclusively with the sin of idolatry. It's the most quoted book, deals with the loving kindness of Yahweh, or is the most disputed and deals with the coming of Messiah. I'm expecting good things on this answer. 100%. Shortest book in the Old Testament and deals exclusively with Edom. And the last question, we just talked about this in the application phase. In what ways does Obadiah have application in today's world? I believe it's all of the above. God does still care about and has a plan for his people Israel. God's justice is perfect and final and executed in his timing. Obadiah definitely talks about that. And the ethnic Israelites have a long-standing divine claim to the land of Palestine. All are true. I'm planning on covering Jonah and Nahum in one shot next week. Okay? Jonah is 4 chapters, Nahum is 3 chapters, so you're talking about 1 chapter per day. Okay? And we will see you same bat time, same bad channel next Wednesday. Thank you. Have a great rest of the week, guys.